What's going on, everybody? Doc, After Gamer Guys, back yet again, more Escape from Tarkov, and another episode of our Teaching Tarkov series. In this one, I specifically want to spend some time talking about graphics settings. More importantly, post-FX settings. As you know, if you've been playing Tarkov even for a little bit, being able to see your enemy and the enemies around you is very, very important, as it is in pretty much any other game. Tarkov has some very unique lighting conditions in certain specific maps that I think can make that difficult sometimes. And with the introduction of post-FX, we've had post-FX for quite a while. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of options to choose. There's a lot of options to mess with and to try out. And I just figured it would be good to share and show some settings that I've been using for a while that hopefully you've enjoyed the quality on when it comes to, viewing the content that we have, specifically focused around our hardcore series and our escape series, as well as over on stream. Obviously, I want the quality of the visuals to be good. I want you to be able to see the action that I see, and hopefully just sharing these post-FX settings and just my graphics settings in general will help you maybe tailor it a little bit better for yourself, get a little bit more clarity in some of the maps that you may have some difficulty seeing in, and overall just hopefully make your experience a little bit better. I want to say up front before we jump in that this will vary for everybody a little bit, specifically based on your monitor settings. If you play with a really low brightness or a higher brightness, or you do anything with your monitor specifically from a gamma perspective, you have to take that in consideration when you're making these adjustments. So I share these just as more of a guideline for what I like. And I very much recommend jumping into a map, pulling your post-FX up, going to visualize, and I'll show you how to do that if you're not familiar, and just messing around with it in raid. You can do these in offline raids. It's a fantastic opportunity to do that and test them out, and hopefully you get some good results from that. So without further ado, let's jump in and we'll take a look at them. All right, so I thought it'd first be good. Let's just talk about general settings. Obviously, and I should have said this up front as well, this is going to be very much based on your computer and what your computer is able to handle. As well as, again, I mentioned your monitor and brightness and gamma and some things that you can mess with. Refresh rate on your monitor is also going to be important. So I have a pretty solid gaming rig. I have a really good monitor, Alienware, that I've really enjoyed for the better part of about 2 years now. And I'm able to, I feel like, run this game at pretty solid quality when it comes to just visuals. Now, there's obviously a lot in here that you can mess with, but this is just what I found to be successful for me, both from just a general play standpoint, as well as, again, from a recording standpoint, if you're looking to or interested in making content. I always struggled with, and still struggle with a little bit, just some of the graininess that you can get with this game. There's a lot of detail in it, and especially transferring that over to a recording or getting that onto a Twitch stream can sometimes be a little bit difficult. But these are settings that I've used for a while and had some success. I'm not going to really point too much out here. You can definitely adjust these, and I think as you go into your post-FX settings, you can also play with these a little bit to make some differences. The one thing I will say that I run pretty much all the time is MIP streaming. This is a newer setting that they've added. Just increases the quality. It does a bunch of other things, but really I have noticed that since using this, my recordings have gotten a lot better, a lot cleaner. Hopefully you guys, again, if you're watching any of the other series, have noticed that as well. So that's just my personal take. However, please note that MIP streaming can be a very significant load on your computer. So test it out, see if you're able to run it, and choose if that's a good option for you. But these are my general settings, and let's go over to post-FX, where I want to spend the majority of the time. All right, so as we jump in, I thought it would be good to show and help you visualize my post-FX settings, and just how this specific setting applies, and where I think I get the most benefit from this. Just to help set the stage, I am in an offline raid on Interchange, if you're not familiar, and we queued in just about noon, just after noon. We do have some rain that you can't hear going on, and a little bit of fog that you're going to be able to see there. But I thought this was a good opportunity to show both outside and inside, and how my post-FX settings are going to really help just overall visuals for me personally, again. So hopefully these are helpful, and let's jump into it. First thing I should cover is how do you get to the point where you can actually visualize and see the changes in raid so that you can change them real time. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend doing this during a regular raid, but a great for offline raids, specific if you want to set up for maps that you have some really difficulty with. And again, Interchange was probably the biggest one that I had the complaint with. Customs, inside dorms, and then labs. Certain areas of labs I feel like can be a little off balance as well. But hopefully this is helpful for you. So what you're going to do, you're going to hit escape. You're going to go to your settings. You can go to your post FX. These are my settings. But if you want to mess with these again in raid, all you got to do is hit visualize. And what it's going to let you do is you're going to be able to see, you're not going to be able to move your character obviously, but you're going to be able to see the application of your post FX settings. Now there's a couple of different settings that you can mess with here. You have overall settings that you can apply that are just going to do exactly what they say. Just your brightness, your saturation, your clarity, colorfulness, all these different things, which would just apply straight across the board to your game. In addition to that, you can pick a color grading. I think this is where you can get into a lot of the specifics and maybe where people have some difficulty with because they don't really know which setting is going to work best for them. Chill wave is one that I've seen a little bit more recently, but when messing around with effect settings and just looking at what gave me the best clarity, as well as also trying to stay pretty true, I think, to the colors and the vibrancy of the game and some of the darker areas, chill wave is just the one that stood out, and I've enjoyed and liked using the best. Now I want to show a couple of differences before we switch off to this. This is my without post effects. It's hazy. It does feel like the brightness jumps up just a little bit overall, but the clarity is something that is just generally not there, as you can obviously tell. As we go to enable back, you're going to see it does get a little bit darker in certain areas. Chill wave has this effect of, I think, highlighting, the blues and the greens. Also really trying to help differentiate between your darks and your lighter colors. And that, I think, is one big thing that's helped with the clarity perspective. Obviously, in addition to all of these other settings. It's important to note intensity is how much you want to crank this thing up. So if we really crank this thing up, you can see that it's going to darken the dark areas, and it's going to keep relatively bright the bright areas. But I run this at about 30, and I found this to be a pretty good intensity in addition to the rest of the settings. I will also say, and probably one question that gets asked a lot is, when do I use these? These are post FX settings that I use on every map. So that's one thing that I wanted to be really clear on. I know some people have specific post FX settings that maybe they switch to when they go to certain maps like Interchange and turn them on and off. I like to be able to just have these on, have good clarity across the board, whatever map I'm going into. And that's also plays into exactly why I've set the settings the way that I have. If we go and we switch off from chill wave, you can see again that it does generally bring the brightness up. You still have some pretty good clarity with just our base settings here. So I definitely recommend messing around with your clarity, your brightness. Again, keep in consideration your monitor is going to play a big part of this. But other than that, you can see that once we switch over, we do darken up a little bit, but I do think it really helps the clarity in different aspects of this map. And what I want to do is, again, give you a chance to see these, hit apply. I'm going to go back and save. I'm going to resume, and I'm just going to walk around a little bit. The one thing I want to show is outside. I will tell you that there's a little bit of transition, especially when you go from a dark spot to a light spot, but you can pretty well see that the clarity for this, even at range, is pretty good. Obviously, we have some fog and some things, but we're getting a pretty good sight picture all the way back along this, along the wall, back towards as we get towards the extract. And we just have really good detail. I think that's the nice thing, and with this especially, and the colors, and the application of this to different maps, that clarity and that just the details that stand out are going to help you pick up movement pretty well, and I think be a good application if you're looking for post FX settings to keep, and again, run on every map. We'll sprint into a little bit of a darker area here, and hopefully it just goes to do some standout and show. Now, I will tell you that the one drawback for Chill Wave that I have noticed is when you're a really exaggerated lighted area, you can get a little bit of a shadowing effect, and you'll see that a little bit as we move here, especially for the darker areas of the map. I will tell you that I have not run into a situation where this has really caused me much of a problem. Transitions I feel like are okay, and especially this is probably one of the darkest areas in my opinion on Interchange. I feel like we have really good clarity to see all the way across the board. Again, you can mess with the brightness here, you can mess with some other settings that might make certain things stand out a little bit more, but comparatively I think these are just, again, really good settings, and you have really good clarity. One thing that I always struggle with, especially being back here, and again, we have a lot of the fog, but we can really make out a lot of the objects. We'll be able to easily see movement up to the front of the store, and I think that's a big thing here. And then also, you know, the items that we're going to be looking for, and some of those other things that we're going to be, you know, the reason we're moving back here is, one, to be able to pick up a bunch of barter items. You know, those kinds of things are going to stand out pretty clearly, and I think that's something that's really helped with Chill Wave, and just the application of the settings that we have is, again, the clarity and the detail for the surrounding environment without, again, making it oversaturated or over brightened to really take away what I think is kind of the allure of this game, and, you know, just the general feeling. You know, I like to keep I think what was intended for the general feeling of this map. I should also note that I did not turn the power on, so this is just a standard Interchange run. This is what you could expect if you don't click the power on. So I will go back and show these again very briefly. I want to keep this video pretty short, but again, this is what I use, Chill Wave. I've had a lot of success with it. I've really enjoyed just these settings for the better part of a little bit. And again, I think hopefully, especially if you go back and look at our Hardcore Series Season 1 in comparison to Hardcore Series Season 2, I had to do some post-editing type effects to try to brighten some areas up. I may still have to do that in certain regards. I think it's going to be much less with these settings. So hopefully this is helpful for you. Hopefully, again, for this Teaching Tarkov, I've helped you in a little bit of ways. I would really strongly recommend, if you don't have post-FX enabled, jump into a raid, enable them, and mess around a little bit. I think especially as you get into this game and the more you play it, you're going to realize that, obviously being able to see is really important. I keep saying that. But being able to pick up the finer details, having a little bit more clarity in your game is really important. The details are really important here. And I think that is going to help hopefully drive some success for you. So if you have other settings, for those experienced players out there that have other post-effect settings and settings that you really like, feel free to drop them in the comments below. If you use a different color grading, different intensity, or different just overall settings or application of these post-effect settings, please let us know. I would be very interested to hear. I think it's really interesting, especially with all of the color grading options that we have here. You could really do some cool stuff with this, and hopefully we can all share and find some settings that work for everybody out there based on how you like to see the game. So with that, we'll close this one out. Doc, Average Gamer, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Quick plug here at the end: like, comment, subscribe. Again, post your post FX settings down below in the comments if you have some that you've been using and having a lot of success with. In addition to that, we do stream over on Twitch. We'd love to have you come hang out, chat with us live with the community. We do that Fridays and Saturdays, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time over on Twitch. It's in the description. We have a Discord, growing community over there. Lots of folks that play EFT. Always post new videos, all that stuff whenever we're going live. So great community for you to join. We have a Twitter down below as well. So we appreciate some follows, and hopefully we will see you in the next Teaching Tarkov or one of our other Escape from Tarkov series. Thanks. We'll see you. Peace.